Of course, while we're looking at some of the aftermath here, I want to be very, very clear. We're still dealing with some pretty significant impacts in some of our areas this morning. Now, Ida is now a tropical storm. As of 4 a.m., it is lifting up to the north here, and we are looking at a fairly slow-moving system. So here it is as of 4 a.m., a 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm, still producing some wind gusts to 80. That's going to be in the Macomb area, very near where the center of it is. So it is now moving into Mississippi. It went from 11:55 a.m. here to, 4 a.m. here. So it took it that long to travel from the coast to the border, and that's why our impacts have been so significant. It is moving at 8 miles an hour. It's slowed down a little bit. It's going to continue to be slow through most of this morning and afternoon, and then it will finally get picked up by a trough later on this evening. Pressure is up to 990, so yes, we do expect it to continue to weaken. And notice the trends here and the kind of the structure of the storm. Still very breezy and windy across all of our area, but still seeing some pretty strong wind gusts, even on our coastal areas, north of the lake and near the coast and the mouth of the river. We've had some 60-mile-per-hour gusts. Still getting a lot of rain with this feeder band coming up into it. That extends all the way from Terrebonne Bay up through Plaquemines. Mississippi's getting a lot of rain, and then a lot of rain up on into Mississippi, southwest Mississippi, but that heaviest rain is now lifting north through the North Shore. So conditions are improving with regard to rain on the North Shore, and they will continue to do so this morning, but we're going to have to watch this feeder band and see if we get any additional development closer to New Orleans, Houma, Thibodaux, as we go in through the rest of your Monday. So we are not done with the impacts from this system. They're not going to be nearly as severe as what we saw yesterday, but we're still going to see some gusty winds. We're still going to see some rain. Surge is still on up there, and that's one thing I want to talk about here, because surge was a very big deal yesterday. That along with the winds, but anytime you get a hurricane moving like this, the path it took and the slow movement that it took, surge really became a huge issue for some areas outside of our levees. All right, Lafitte, we talked to the mayor of Jean Lafitte earlier. He said this is one of the worst storms he's ever seen down here. The surge definitely came up through Barataria Bay here and got way on up there. So surge is still pretty high in some of these areas. Surge also a very big problem in around areas around the western side of Lake Pontchartrain. I was just looking at some of the gauges out here, and it looks like the water is really not dropping just yet. So we've had reports of people, water coming into homes out in St. John. I don't think that's really improving at this point, and it may take some time before it really starts to improve. It's not rising rapidly at this point, but it is still got a long ways to go. Up in Tangipahoa Parish, up towards Highway 22 here, there's also been a lot of water up there. Looks like it is peaking at this point, but it's still very high. And then up into Madisonville, just check the rain gauge there as you go into the Tchefuncte. It looks like it is crest, and now it's dropping quickly, but we'll see if that trend continues. But it did get way on up there, and it rapidly rose over the past couple of hours. Same thing for other areas along the North Shore. Water is pretty high in most of those spots. Here on the South Shore of New Orleans, water is even a little bit higher. That's because we hit high tide earlier. But we're sitting at about 5 feet above normal in the Lake Pontchartrain area. And then as you look down towards our coast, we're still getting that onshore flow. Those strong winds are still pushing on the west bank of Plaquemines. East bank of Plaquemines is probably seeing a little bit of relief, but the west bank, I think, is still seeing quite a bit of surge. Same thing for Grand Isle and going down into Terrebonne Bay. Shell Beach, the winds are going away from you now, so they're pushing out into Lake Bourne. Still flooding, but you should see improvements today because of that. In the Mississippi coast, you are not going to see improvements today. You still have your strong south wind, which is pushing in the water for Bay St. Louis, Long Beach, Pass Christian, Biloxi, Gulfport, as far west as or far east as going into parts of Alabama, strong onshore flow. So still could see some significant surge at times as we go through the early morning hours. And then as the wind starts to let up some, the surge won't be as significant, but it's not going to allow it to drain out quickly. The strong onshore flow out of the south is going to be here today, tomorrow, and then it'll start to weaken by Wednesday. So the surge is going to be slow to go on out over the next 48 hours or so. So I just wanted to bring you the awareness of surge is still an issue. While in New Orleans, we're looking manageable. There's a lot of places outside New Orleans that are dealing with much, much bigger problems, like we're talking about the flooding, the storm surge, where people are having to flee and getting to their attics and things like that. So it is still a significant issue for some areas. Winds are not as strong, obviously, but we're still having some strong gusts. We're gusting to nearly 40 at Grand Isle, 33 at the lakefront, nearly 40 at the airport, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts in Shell Beach. Winds are still strong enough you don't need to be out in them in some of these spots. We gusted up to 74 earlier in Gulfport. They're sustained at 21, but they are having some higher gusts. We're still gusting over 30 to 40 near the mouth of the river. I wish I could give you reporting sites down here. We haven't forgot about you. All your sites got knocked out. Either you don't have power to them or they were destroyed by the winds. Either one's plausible. And yes, we did have the significant winds move up through the bayou and up through the river parishes, which is where we have seen our most significant impacts. But boy, I tell you what, I've seen some videos out of eastern St. Bernard, and the storm surge and winds there were just unbelievable as well. So no one in southeast Louisiana did not feel an impact from Hurricane Ida. So that's what we're watching today. Let's talk really quick about our rivers on the North Shore, because our attention is going to really turn here over the coming days as well, and really by today. So we are forecasting quite a few of these rivers to see major flooding. The surge is coming on up, so the rivers are already rising rapidly. The water that you picked up this morning from the rain is trying to drain in these rivers, and they're going to back on up. So these are expected to go into major flood stage by tonight. And a lot of these areas are going to be highest tonight going into Tuesday. As we go into Wednesday, things will level off, and then these are going to slowly drain. Remember, the lake's going to take its time draining out into the Gulf. These are going to take their time draining into the lake. So this could be somewhat elevated and in flood stage through the rest of the work week. It may not be until about Thursday or Friday until we see our rivers on the North Shore improve, guys.